There are a lot of headlines flying around about how toast and roasted potatoes can cause cancer, so let's talk about it. So the reason this whole thing has even become a thing that people are talking about is the Food Standards Agency in the UK has recently launched a new campaign. And the purpose of the campaign is to educate the public about the cancer risk that comes with eating starchy foods that have been cooked at a high temperature for too long. So we're talking toast, roasted potatoes, french fries, potato chips, all that kind of stuff. Now you might be thinking, Sarah, I thought potatoes were a healthy food, and I have in fact made a video all about potatoes and whether or not they're healthy. So I will link that for you if you haven't seen it and you want some more info. But the issue here is coming in with what happens when you cook these foods a certain way. So when starchy foods like bread or potatoes are cooked at a high temperature for too long, they can develop something called acrylamide. And this is a natural part of the browning process. So the more brown and then eventually burnt a starchy food gets, then the more acrylamide it will have. Now the whole cancer thing comes in thanks to some studies that have been done on animals. So these animals were given acrylamide in their drinking water, and then in those studies they saw this relationship between acrylamide and cancer risk. But according to the American Cancer Society, the dose here was as high as 1,000 to 10,000 times the amount that a person might get from food. Now as far as human studies go, according to the American Cancer Society, we really don't have solid evidence here. There have been some studies done, but most of them don't show an increase in risk for cancer for people who are eating more of these types of foods that would be higher in acrylamide. Some of them have found increased risk for certain types of cancers, but overall it's still not really clear. Another thing to remember with these types of studies is a lot of times they are relying on a food frequency questionnaire. And food frequency questionnaires aren't great. Because the thing is, with the food frequency questionnaire, you're asking people, how often do you eat these foods and in what amounts? And people don't always share accurate information. I mean, of course, the researchers try to make their questionnaires as accurate as possible, but for a lot of people, they just might not be able to remember and accurately estimate how often and how much they eat of a certain food. Also, people have a tendency to over-report the foods that they themselves perceive as healthy and under-report the foods that they perceive as unhealthy. And sometimes this is intentional, but sometimes it's just a natural bias that people want to tell other people the information that they think those people want to hear, and they don't want to tell them the information that they think they don't want to hear. So now that you have that background information, what the FSA in the UK is telling people to do is to cook these starchy foods, the toast, the potatoes, so that they are a golden yellow or golden brown color. They also have some other recommendations like not refrigerating raw potatoes, because apparently this can increase the amount of sugars in the potatoes that are involved in the production of the acrylamide when these things are cooked. So that's something to think about, but I will link their recommendations below, as well as some other resources that talk about acrylamide and acrylamide risk, like the American Cancer Society. So if you want to get more info and dig into it a little deeper, you can do that. But I think the important thing to remember is, like, yes, this acrylamide substance has been linked with cancer. It can develop when you cook certain foods a certain way. So all of that is true. But at the same time, I don't want people to like freak out over toast and potatoes. You have to remember that this whole acrylamide thing is just a small part of all of the different things that can influence your cancer risk. You have to think about this in context. So there are a lot of things that influence your cancer risk that you have some say in, like the food you eat, your physical activity, whether or not you smoke. All of those things are really important, but there are also things that you can't control, like your genetics. So when it comes to this whole acrylamide thing, I say, for one, don't burn your food. That's pretty basic. You know, pay attention when you're making your toast and you're making your potatoes that they're not getting blackened or really, really dark brown. That's something that's easy to do. But at the same time, if your toast gets a little darker than you normally like it, that doesn't mean you have to like throw it across the room and get it as far away from you as possible. Also, eat a variety of foods. Don't base your diet on 1 or 2 or 3 foods. Spread it out, get a lot of different stuff in there so you're getting the variety of nutrients as well as taste and textures and flavors. Also, switch up your preparation methods. Maybe sometimes you roast your potatoes and other times you boil them and make mashed potatoes. When you roast them, you're gonna have this acrylamide thing coming in there. When you boil them, you're gonna have nutrients that are leaching out and getting lost in the water. So it's not like one thing is neutral and doesn't have any downsides. And this is true with any fruit or vegetable. You know, some nutrients are enhanced by cooking, some are damaged by cooking, certain types of cooking can have different effects on these things. So just mix it up, do different stuff, and make sure you're getting that variety in the cooking process as well. And eat a healthy, balanced diet, and don't stress about this so much, okay? Because of all the things in life that you could be stressed about, I don't think the way you cook your potatoes should be at the top of that list, okay? So have your toast, have your roasted potatoes. This is something you can be aware of and do the things like I mentioned before. You know, don't try to burn things, but it's not something to freak out about or like put all of your attention towards. And honestly, tonight, I'm making roasted potatoes as part of my dinner. So if that tells you anything, there you go. And let me know in the comments, had you heard about this? And does stuff like this worry you, freak you out, make you frustrated? Because I know that's a thing that I think a lot of people feel is frustration when they just hear that everything in their life is gonna give them cancer, when it's obviously a lot more complicated than that. So let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. I hope you like this video, and if you happen to be new here and you want more healthy eating tips and nutrition info and healthy recipes, make sure that you subscribe, because eating healthy and living a healthy lifestyle really doesn't have to be complicated, and I want to show you how to do it. And if you're loving the free info here but you're finding that you need something more personalized, don't forget that I do offer one-on-one nutrition coaching and counseling. So if you're interested in working with me, just let me know and we can get that set up for you. Thanks for watching. I hope you're having a great day, and I'll talk to you next time.